Yeah, look, I had a dream. It would have been 2000, and it was a very vivid dream. 2000, I'd say 2003 slash four. And it was about my mother and my grandmother during those times that I've shared was a very shiny, beacon within my life. A lot of education, knowledge sharing, and had a huge influence on my life. My mother, great nurturer, and a beautiful lady, both had passed away. And I was living in Melbourne at the time, which is, for those that don't know, Melbourne's about 8 hours drive from Sydney. And I was living down there for work at the time and sleeping. I had a 3-story house at split level type house, and I was sleeping upstairs, and something woke me up. It's like, when you feel a presence, if you've had a pet, that they walk by and you sort of feel them, even though you don't see them, that they're there. And you look down and the pet's there, or something like that's happened, maybe a person walking by yourself. And I had that presence feeling that someone was at the house. And I opened my sleep. It sounds weird, but I opened myself up out of the sleep whilst I was still asleep. And I was like, I know you're there. And they were both giggling and laughing, and there was these mist of figures that it wasn't a human. It was this elongated version of a human, when you draw an actual ghost, and whether that was my vision of what a ghost was, it was this long, and that their legs were more like an arrow meeting together, I suppose, and their arms were the same, but it was, as they moved, it was like a mist. It was like bits of rain all put together, and they're like, oh, he knows we're here. And then they were laughing, giggling, and they were sort of hiding, and they're like, shh, don't scare him, you'll freak him out. And I came through the first level, and I could literally feel the presence of both of I couldn't tell it was my mother or grandmother. My vision after it was that it was those two, and they were coming back to check on me. But they come up each of these levels, and as they come up, I could feel their presence even more so as they got closer and closer. And because I didn't know it was my grandmother or mother, I was a bit sort of like, what is this? What's coming towards myself? And they come up, and that the intensity of their presence got heavier, but they kept giggling, and they were laughing and saying, not laughing, but saying, oh, you're gonna wake him up. And it was almost like they were just checking in, and that's why I do believe it was my mother and grandmother. But by the time they got to the top level in my bedroom, they were looking and saying, he's looking, he's trying to look. And at the time, I was face down, sleeping, and I still remember. And I felt like I couldn't turn myself around, but they were at the door, and I could feel the presence of them being at the door. And I think that dream happened to me not only then in 2003, 2004, but it's happened many a times where I've had the presence of this dark shape, elongated figure that is made up of all these rain droplets. That's the best way of putting it. That can sort of just move, and as it moves, the droplets follow it as a shape. And it does have the head, it does have the arms, the body, the legs, but very pointy on the arms, very pointy. And that's happened to me since I was a kid through to this point. And it's always something that I'll never forget that dream. It was just that one was probably the most vivid of all those dreams, and the presence and the energy of something happening. And if you've ever been in the presence of anything happening, whether it was good or bad, and your fight or flight system alarm was going off, my alarm, it was like a nuclear bomb alarm. It was like literally very present, very loud, very the feeling was that they were there. And then something I was trying to get myself up, and my partner at the time I was making these noises, and she actually woke me up. I spun around and then looked at the door, and that's how present that was. And not long after that, I had 2 hours whilst driving out on country roads in Australia. Middle of the road, I had to swerve both times. And these hours, when I looked it up, it said that you could sort of see through things, and not see through walls, but see why things were happening. And I sort of I thought that was quite strange to happen just after it.